everybody. I'm DebDedrick, high performance life and business coach, here today with episode number 138, How to Show Up and Be Present. Today's tips are about ways that you can create happier relationships, personally and professionally, by applying a few of these everyday little tips and tricks and tools where you show up in all of your relationships and you're more present. And when you're more present, that aids you in building strong, happy relationships at home and at work. Haven't you ever been with somebody and you're talking to them and you are positive they're not listening to a word you're saying? Yes, we've all felt that. And do you remember how that made you feel? I still get annoyed when I'm with my kids and I'm talking to them and they're not listening to me, or they're distracted, or they're looking at their phones. Whenever somebody is with me, and I don't know if you feel this way too, and I'm talking to them and they're kind of like doing this, or they're looking at their phone, or they're looking and they're doing this, maybe you're sitting in the room with them and they're watching TV and they're kind of like, the shifty eye look. That's not being present. So, and that really annoys me. And if it annoys me, I'm sure if I do that to other people, and sure I'd have, I'm committed to not living that way. I'm committing to showing up and being present in my life and living it to the fullest. I think that's what we need to be doing. I think so much of our lives are being lost in distraction and time wasting activities that are not allowing us to create successful life and business transitions. They're just wasting our time. And so today's tip is to help you become a little bit aware of those things that you may be doing and take little baby steps in the direction of correcting them. So number one, pay attention to what's going on around you. So if you're like this and you're doing this, that's not what I mean. When you're paying attention to somebody or what you're doing, you're completely focused on it. You're not halfway focused. Multitasking is something that we've been taught that's a lie. Your brain can only do one thing at a time. And if you focus on doing one thing at a time, you're going to become more present. It's this constant state of doing many, many things that not only stops you from creating successful transformations and completing projects or advancing your career or improving your relationships, they are just time wasters. And if you are working on something, it takes that much longer. So be sure and be aware of what's going on around you. And then number two, be aware of what's going on in your mind. Learning to take control of your mind and what you're thinking about and putting a handle on it and paying attention to it, because I think the mind is the hardest muscle to develop and strengthen. I know for me in my daily practices of, it's not meditation so much, but it's focused blocks of concentrated effort on one thing just to develop the focus muscle. My brain just really fights me on this. I'm talking or I'll be listening to something and something gets triggered in my brain and my brain goes way over here, and then by the time I come back around, I've missed half of the conversation, half of the podcast I'm listening to, half of the mass that I'm listening to, or the lesson I'm listening to, because my brain has hijacked me and took me off back into the past or somewhere in the future instead of staying right in the present moment. So taking control of your mind, paying attention to those thoughts that are going to try to creep you away, and say no and redirect. And that is how you begin to strengthen your mind muscle. You control your thoughts. They don't control you. And number three, to show up and be more present, if you're interpersonally relationship building with somebody and you're talking to them, make direct eye contact. Look them right in the eye and listen to what they're saying, and don't let your mind go off here or here. Don't let your mind start constructing replies, answers, critiques. Let your mind just focus and listen to what the person is saying. People that become very good listeners and make direct eye contact are rare, and that is a skill that our world needs. And if you can learn to develop this skill, It's going to improve all of your relationships. And number 4, okay, this is kind of touching on what we were talking about, that mental chatter. That mental chatter that's going on in the background, no matter who you're with, what you're doing, it's that little chatter that's going on, and it distracts you. So paying attention to the mental chatter and stopping it. How are you going to stop it? Well, it's like concentrating on, I'm not going to think about that. And one of the things that helps with that a lot, especially if it's negative mental chatter, is filling your mind up at that point with, here's a good example, I know I can't do that. I feel so stupid. Instead of that, you say, I know I can do that. I am powerful. I am the smartest person in the world. I am the smartest person in the world. And learn to block the negative thoughts with the positive thoughts. And one final thing, how to show up and be present and be powerful. And a good tip. Stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself the way that you want to show up and be present for other people. So become your own best critic. I've found when you listen to yourself and you watch yourself and you kind of stand back and look, you can look for areas where you can improve and where you might be interrupting, or your mind's hijacking you, or you're lacking a little bit of clarity on how you are presenting your ideas. The mirror method is a great way for you to practice and get better, even if it's showing up and concentrating on focusing on what you're doing and keeping your mind in one direction. It's just like I've said before, if you want to get good at something, you have to practice it. And practice is ongoing every day. A little bit every day will help you get better. And showing up today and being present, going back over episode number 138, number 1, when you are showing up and you are being present, you're taking control of yourself and your mind and the mental chatter. You're eliminating distractions. You're eliminating your eyes from going off here. You're putting things down. You are practicing being a better listener by learning not to interrupt. It's not okay to interrupt. It's not okay to be rude. It's not okay to hijack the conversation because you think it's more interesting what you have to say than somebody else's has to say. Okay, here's a good way to look at it. I know what I know. I know how I feel about everything because I know myself. So who cares what I think? When I go out in the world, I'm much more interested in learning how other people think. And when you can kind of frame the conversation like that and you're interacting and remember, oh yeah, when I leave this conversation, I want to know way more about them than they know about me. That will help you create more successful conversations and be present in the conversation and not trigger bad feelings because you're hijacking the conversation, you're being rude, you're interrupting, you're interjecting your opinions to try to shift the conversation. All those things get done on a day-to-day basis and really come between relationship building and getting to know each other. Number 4, go practice the mirror method in the mirror, keeping your eye on yourself and keeping an eye on your thoughts and eliminating negative thoughts by replacing them with positive, confident, determined, persistent, courageous, inspirational, leadership, all those words, step into becoming the best person that you want to be. And number 4, going back over it, eliminating the mental chatter that we all have to struggle with by learning to become a master of your mind. Your brain is the biggest, most powerful tool that you have, and we haven't been taught how to get a hold of it and use it for our benefit. So thank you so much for joining me today on episode 138, How to Stay Present. And you know what? There's something kind of exciting coming up. At the beginning of the year, I'm kind of going to take our daily, or my daily tips and my episodes, and I'm going to kind of shift them. I'm going to start something new. I'm really excited about it. It's going to have kind of the same format of the how-tos, but it's going to be a lot more definitive on how to create happiness in your life, because if you're happy, and it doesn't matter if you're happy at work, if you're happy at home, if you're happy, happiness is something that you carry around with you, and it's something that we all strive for, but it's something that evades most of us. And I want to help you with that so you can create a happy life, create successful life and business transitions, and leave a very strong, happy, powerful legacy for your family and anybody else that you might come in contact with. So thank you for joining me today. Go out in the world and be a positive role model and influencer for good. And I will see you on the next tip.